In the work that Simon and I do, we interact with many organizations in many different domains. And one of the things that we see all the time is a sharp focus on people wanting to find ways of collaborating and sharing data more effectively. And this is nothing new. Many people have done a lot of work to understand the challenges that face organizations in this area, both human and technical. And it's actually those same challenges that, to a great extent, have driven the evolution of the Arcgis platform. So if you think back, originally GIS was in the hands of just a few professionals with specific skills. And more recently, WebGIS has opened up the possibility of everyone in the organization being able to engage in mapping, in location analytics, regardless of what type of user they are. And as we move forward, distributed WebGIS promises to push that perimeter further out and break down the barriers that currently make it really hard for organizations to collaborate with one another.
So we have some powerful new sharing capabilities that we'd like to show you today. So Vic Roads, this is the Traffic and Roads Authority down in Victoria. They've kindly let us use some of their data to show a workflow that will hopefully resonate with some of you, and that's syncing data between separate portals. Now, internally, they make use of Arcgis Enterprise. This is the new name for Arcgis for Server. This is behind the firewall, where they have a range of maps and apps for their internal staff. They then push a subset of that data to their Arcgis Online account, where they have a great range of maps and apps for the public. They then also share some of those data sets with their Arcgis Open Data site, which also flows on to data.vic, which is our local state portal down in Victoria. Now, today, we're not going to be using their live environment, but Josh is going to play the role of the internal Arcgis Enterprise administrator, and you're going to set up a collaboration, whereas I'm going to be more on the public engagement side and dealing with the Arcgis Online and Arcgis Open Data side of things.
Okay, so inside the agency, we're using Arcgis Enterprise and Portal for Arcgis to surface maps, apps, and data to a broad range of internal users. And as Simon mentioned, we've got some 1,000 or so spatial data sets that fuel those information products for those users. And one of the most broadly used data sets we have is crash statistics. And this is also an example of a data set that we have a mandate to share with other agencies and also to the public through open data. So if we look at that data set as it's manifest inside the portal that I administer, I want to draw your attention to a couple of things. First of all, there's, let me just highlight it for you, 6,935 features in this data set. It's a very specific thing to tell you, but hang on to that number. It'll become important later on. But also, this data is up to date. So if I sort it by date, descending, you'll see that we've got August covered. So our internal processes have gone through, and this data set is up to date. Now, to support our need to share that with others, what we've done is take advantage of this new capability in Arcgis 10.5 called distributed collaboration. And I've set up a collaboration that's going to link the enterprise portal that I administer with the Arcgis Online organization that Simon's responsible for. Inside this collaboration, there's a number of moving parts. There's something called a workspace. So think of this as a conduit or a channel that links our two portals together and allows information to flow between them. There's a group, and this is really important because it's the hook between this new capability and the sharing model that many of you would be familiar with if you've used Portal or Arcgis Online. It also defines in which direction, or in fact both directions, we want to move content. And then finally, it also determines the frequency with which that's going to happen. So if I just look at the properties on this collaboration, we've set it up to actually fire once a month because that matches up with what our internal processes need. Now, it doesn't have to be monthly. You could bring that down to weekly, daily, hourly, whatever makes sense for your processes. Now, thinking back to that group I mentioned, all I actually had to do to then get content items from my portal flowing into Simon's was to share it into this group. It was that simple, that easy. Over on Simon's side, there's a matching definition of this collaboration because it is a trusted collaboration. We both had to set it up. And if we dig in there, you can see there's a matching workspace. That kind of makes sense because it's the other end of this connection we've established. And there's also a group. That's where the content from my end is going to end up when it gets to Simon's end.
So this is the external Arcgis Online portal for Vic Roads, showcasing some of their key maps and apps on the homepage here. Now if we dive in, this is the item details for the crash statistics layer that's held on my side in Arcgis Online. This was originally synced over to Arcgis Online via that collaboration group that Josh set up without the need for any external tools or scripts. And if Josh was to share another data set or a web map or even a file into that collaboration group, it would be synced through and created on my side in Arcgis Online. Now this data set has also been shared with the Vic Roads open data site. So as a researcher or a web developer or another government agency, I can actually hunt down the raw data and filter it down. I can download it in a variety of different formats, or better still, get access to the live data via an API endpoint. But this is the raw data we're playing with here. But what I want to draw your attention to is because in this particular scenario, the collaboration is only set up to sync on a monthly basis, I have less records on my side than what Josh had on his side, and that's because basically I'm missing August data. I don't have those extra records. So 6139, we'll address that in a bit. Now to engage with the broader community, we've also set up a series of data-driven microsites that are focused around policy initiatives to tackle pressing issues. Towards Zero is a multi-agency plan to lower the number of lives lost on Victorian roads through improving road safety. Now, the initial stats on this page show how things are tracking compared to the previous year's stats. Again, drawing your attention to the fact that 6139 is still not quite up to date. And it's pages like this that allow you to put your open data to work and allow you to let the citizens follow the progress of whatever initiatives you might have. You can wrap context and purpose around your data and allow the community to actually engage with your data. So, for example, here looking at not only where crashes have happened, but how they've happened over time. You can point the users to related maps and apps, but also to extra tools. And maybe everyone's not a developer. Provide them map building tools so that they can actually create their own maps and encourage them to share those maps back with you. Even provide crowdsourcing templates to gather data from your community in a useful digital format for yourself. It just so happens, whilst explaining this page, that monthly sync has happened. So if I do a quick refresh of the page, the collaboration, the latest records have now flowed through over to my side in Arcgis Online, and that hosted feature service now has those extra records. Ooh. Might have jumped the gun there, one more time. Let's try that again.
Looks like something's gone wrong at your end, mate.
Shut down twice in once. Nice. All right, one more time or?
Go for it, go for it. Then you can get your people on it. God, why did that have to happen on the very last day, hey? Okay.
Confident?
Give it one more shot, go on. Oh, there you go.
There we go. Boom. Still got my career, all right. So the latest records are flowing through, but not only to that hosted feature service, that flows through to the open data site, but also to this particular open data page, the cards, the charts, the maps on this page, but also any story maps you have or any other applications that are hitting that hosted feature service and now using the latest data.
Okay, so here's what we saw, thankfully. We saw an Arcgis Enterprise portal in a trusted collaboration with an Arcgis Online organization, and that was made possible through a simple, familiar sharing metaphor using groups. Now, we only moved data in one direction in this case. We sent it between our two portals, but that could have flowed in the other direction too. So imagine a scenario perhaps where you have a field data collection project. You've got mobile workers using something like Collector or Survey 123, doing inspections. They're accumulating data into Arcgis Online. At some point, and probably at regular intervals, you've got to pull that data back into the enterprise for QA, reporting, and so on. That could work well for that. This isn't the only way you'll be able to use it, though. As this capability matures inside the Arcgis platform, you're going to see additional use cases and possibilities emerge. So imagine a situation where you have two enterprise portals that want to collaborate, maybe two different departments, excuse me, in a large organization, perhaps in different locations or even different countries, exchanging maps, data, content, and that extended system of engagement then allowing both ends to make much more informed decisions. Now, clearly, security is really important when we're establishing this kind of collaboration, and the capability does support the kind of standards you'd expect, like web tier authentication and client-side certificates for those of you working in PKI environments, for example. If we extend the thinking just a little bit further, imagine a number of participating portals rolling up content to a single master portal, where that master portal has a unique composite view, an up-to-date view of high-value content that's made its way up into that single location.
And without being too presumptuous, but just as an example of how that could be used in a local context, you might have the Department of Infrastructure, local government and planning in the middle there, and then a combination of trusted workspaces set up to gather data from the various local government agencies to sync their infrastructure plans on a regular basis, perhaps. Now, if we take Arcgis Enterprise out of the equation, there will be the opportunity to sync maps and data between separate Arcgis Online portals. This will make it very easy to be able to spin up a secure bridge between multiple organizations, just purely using software as a service. Now, another use case might be to use these capabilities to streamline the movement of your own WebGIS content between your different environments. So in this example, moving your WebGIS items from a development environment to a staging and then over to a production.
So all of these scenarios we've looked at and discussed will be possible or are possible right now in some cases using simple configuration. So no coding, no scripting, no special ETL tools. If you want to find out more about how it works, come and join me in my technical session this afternoon and we'll take a deeper dive. Thank you.